Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Alex Bradley from Anything Geeky Review, and I'm here to give you a second episode on game ideas. Today's episode is going to be more about first-person shooters, and in particular an idea that was canned back in 2002. Now the idea is from the actual XCOM team. Anybody who doesn't know what XCOM is, it's a strategy game that was kind of created in the early 90s, I think it was 91, and it created an era, really, 10 years of fantastic strategy innovations that carried on, and it's kind of stunted now because nobody's really making new strategy games and making it unique. We've got a few which are trying at the moment, but back in the 90s, that and Command & Conquer revolutionised strategy. Now the basis of XCOM was aliens come to Earth, they invade, and we have to fight them off. Now, one of the last games that they had in production at Microprose, who were the developers, was a game called XCOM Alliance. Now, XCOM Alliance was a first-person shooter, which was a first for the team. They'd only done 3 strategy games and a flight simulator kind of game in the XCOM series. There had been other games like XCOM Enforcer. I think it was the only other game, actually, but I don't think it was done by them. I hope not, because it was awful. God awful. I mean, a lot of people didn't like Interceptor, which was the 4th game in the series, simply because it wasn't a strategy game, it was a flight simulator. You were in space, you were dogfighting with alien ships. I actually kind of liked the idea. It just kind of needed maybe 5 or 10 years gap for the technology to catch up with what you needed. You needed good technology to pull that off. Excuse me. So what I'm going to talk about is this XCOM Alliance. Now, it was the first time they'd ever talked about doing a first-person shooter. I think when the latest XCOM was announced before the strategy version, there was massive uproar over it. People were going nuts. You can't do a first-person XCOM game. It's a strategy game. Yes and no. If you're going to take care with it, I don't see any reason why you can't. An IP is an IP. It's an idea. Use it. Use it to all its advantage you can. As long as you put some love and effort into it, it's going to be most of the time a decent game. XCOM Alliance took the idea of first-person shooters further than anything has taken it yet. We've even got back then, which we haven't. I think we've had in 2 or 3 games in the last 10 years, which is ridiculous. A morale system. Modern games just don't do it. They were planning on implementing a system where you had a couple men with you, scientists, engineers. You could pick them. It didn't have to be soldiers, but the morale mattered. If one of your mates started to get scared, it would affect his performance. He may not be able to fight anymore. You may have to sit down for a couple of minutes, get him to calm down. You had a morale. You had a morale system in the strategy game. If one of your guys was sitting either alone, he was being pinned down, constantly fired up by the enemy, or if he saw a lot of his own men die. If you've got one of those captains, or usually it's kind of a rookie, he's got no experience, can't shoot a gun, can't hit nothing, and he's seeing all his mates around him die, then he'll panic. And that's something we need a lot more, specifically in kind of single player games where you've got an AI. Really, you want humans to act like humans, and that doesn't happen very often with the AI, because it's obviously very difficult to do. But not many games have even attempted it. Now, this wanted that idea. This kind of had the idea that it would have a morale system and it would use it. You also had the idea that you could only have 4 men in a team. You could obviously have different types of men. You could even have aliens apparently later on, when you met some friendly aliens. It was all going to be based around a story of from Terror from the Deep, which was the second strategy game in the series. Basically, a group of men and ships, I think. It's kind of sketchy. There's not a lot of details in the game. A group of men and ships were lost in space, and they are basically having to explore planets and try and find a way home, by the sounds of it. So you've got this aspect where instead of being the commander of a unit where you're strategically guiding from above. You are a commander on the ground. You are a man amongst your men. You are fighting hand to hand, if necessary, against your enemies. I think one of the examples was that you'd actually get down to the ground level and fight brains, which are from Terror from the Deep, hand to hand or in actual combat, or you could see one of your own mates being, beheaded by the thing and transformed into a zombie, and then you'd have to kill him and then kill the brain that pops out of him as well. It would have the kind of XCOM feel to it, the eerie music, the dark, moody graphics, and the gripping story that it's always had. Surprisingly, XCOM has not had a great story. It's just what there is of it is intriguing enough to keep you going, to keep you wanting more. And I think this was a great way to explore that. I'm really ashamed that Hasbro and the other companies who bought Microprose at the time had eventually canned the project, because weird thing is it won loads of awards. I think it was 98 when it was announced at E3, and it won tons of awards from journalists who thought, fantastic game, best game of E3, things like this, and then you can it. The idea sounds great. What I would want nowadays is a modern version. We're not limited so much by hardware anymore. We need something, modern. We need something where maybe every player in the team, maybe you don't have 4 players, maybe you have 16 players in your team. Maybe the aliens are human controlled as well. You have a whole multiplayer function to it. There could be a single player. I'm happy to have a single player because I actually prefer single player games. But I think the multiplayer aspect of it would be a lot more important nowadays. It'd certainly sell a lot more copies, and it would make the game a lot more interactivity. You'd have the kind of range. As long as you had a single player moment, you could kind of pick and choose which one you wanted at a time. And I think with modern technology, it'd be far better than back then. I'm not sure whether it's a good idea it didn't come out back then, just so we can use the idea now where we've got the technology to take full advantage of it. But you never know. It could have been a fantastic game back then. There were very few people who ever got to play it, so we'll never know. But I think it's a lot better idea than what we've currently got, which is, let's make a new COD. Let's have exactly the same, but with a few new weapons, new story, new characters, more action, more explosions. Make sure there's more explosions. You need more explosions. Bigger tanks. That's it. Bigger tanks. Maybe we should kind of scrap that idea and actually progress the first-person era. Because to be honest, first-person shooters get a lot of flack for being very copy and pasty, and they are. I'm a Battlefield fan, and even I'm saying Battlefield 4. There's not a lot of difference from Battlefield 3. Battlefield Hardline, there's not a lot of difference from Battlefield 4. What we need is something new. We've got fantastic engines nowadays, we've got fantastic power in our machines, and PS4 and Xbox One have just come out. We've got this humongous amount of power we can use to create fantastic games, and all we're doing is creating the same fucking fantastic games we've already had before. It's stupid. Some of the ideas for this game, this XCOM Alliance, sound awesome. Back in the day they were talking about having, you boarding enemy ships, enemy UFOs. Instead of shooting the bastards down, imagine boring into them with assault shuttles, or getting your suit out of an airlock, jumping at this ship with your jet, your boosters, and landing on it and drilling your own hole in the ship. You get in there, you clear an area where your men can form up, and you start attacking the ship from the inside out. Now, there is no game on this God's earth that does that. No game whatsoever. Surely, 15, 20-year-old idea should have been used by now? This is why I've got this channel. This is why I've got this series anyway. I want people to share ideas. I want this channel and this series to have some fantastic game ideas for people to think, actually, that makes a lot of fucking sense. Why don't we do it? Instead of this copy and paste crap, why don't we actually make something that's unique? Imagine being able to attack alien UFOs with your ship, with your men. You're on the ground fighting these dreadful, horrible aliens that, could easily gut you from, head to fucking ballsack in a couple of seconds, Imagine the feeling you've got, the feeling of fear as you and your men rush into this ship and the dark shit that's going to be in there. Imagine attacking alien bases with your own eyes, seeing the crap that was there. It scared the crap out of me when I saw it from an isometric view. It probably scared the crap out of me even more seeing it from a first-person view. there are ideas out there for these first-person shooters that need to be used instead of having the same crap that we've already got. XCOM, the Bureau of Investigation, or the Bureau, that showed that third-person games could be unique in the XCOM universe. You could have an XCOM idea and make it a little bit different. Now, it wasn't a fantastic game. It was good. It was enjoyable. Let's have more. Let's push it. Let's go into space. Let's do something else with it. Instead of having the same stuff we've already had again and again, World War II shooter, World War II shooter, World War II shooter, modern warfare, modern fucking warfare. Let's get away from that idea and actually have something that's fucking unique. Who wouldn't want to be able to board alien ships? Who wouldn't want to be able to repel enemies attacking your carriers and your ships? Maybe even add some dogfighting in there. You've got Battlefront that's done it. I think that's about the only one that's actually taken the idea, and it worked fucking fantastic. Now imagine that, but creepier and darker and grimmer, with your mates, all of them. It could be a fantastic idea. So let me know what you guys think of that idea, and if you've got your own ideas on first-person shooters, please let me know, because I think the series and the genre definitely needs a change up. Thanks for watching, and peace.